Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with our first grand finalist. In the blue, the Terran from Team Liquid, the world champion. It's Clem. But up against one of the best Protoss players this side of Max Packs, D-Mawa, The Wall, Showtime. A best-of-5 Protoss versus Terran grand finals from WardiTV's public test round balanced tournament. And these two facing off on the new updated version of the balance patch. So whether you like the changes or you're willing to debate them in the comments, all I ask is the first thing you do is smash that like button and maybe even subscribe. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,453 likes on this video on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And while we keep getting updates and good games for the fans, I'll probably do it anyways. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. Major changes. 1. Shield battery overcharge has been removed. Replaced with an ability called Energy Recharge, which I like our secondary name, which drops 100 energy on any unit or building from the Nexus within a certain range on a global cooldown. So, same like basic functionality as overcharge, but used for energy instead of buff and shield batteries. The Cyclone has been reverted back to its older version, close to the original version. It's now requires a tech lab, but it has a lot more damage, and while being more fragile, is much more effective individually. Is he trying to wall off the Reaper? There's like 2 Reaper entrances. So, Sentry first. Use the energy recharge in order to get a hallucinated Phoenix out of that Sentry, buffing it up to 150 energy. And this allows Protoss players a lot more reliable scouting in the very early game, rather than shoving your Adept Shade up against their depot and hoping you can smell what they're doing behind it. So, while it makes it a little harder to defend early timings, the energy recharge ability, I think, is one of the most interesting changes and has a lot of kind of crazy implications when it comes to Sentries, Phoenixes, Oracles early. It is definitely one of those things that is more tailored to high-level players, because obviously you need to actually use it on an active basis rather than hitting it like a panic button. But we're already seeing Showtime. Well known. I mean, you don't get nicknamed The Wall because of your intensely aggressive tendencies, but already using these hallucinated Phoenixes in order to keep tabs on what Clem is up to. And Clem, instead of his more typical, on the current patch, Cyclone plays early on, is going for a Widow Mine drop. Now, a few of the other changes. Ghost is now 3 supply, so doesn't change the effectiveness of EMP or Snipe, but it's a little bit harder to get a huge amount of Ghosts. I don't think that change affects this matchup nearly as much as Terran versus Zerg. I have a whole video on this whole thing. If you want to go over all the more specific changes. But also the Stalker out of the gateway builds a little bit faster, 3 seconds faster. Not the Warp Gate. So like the first 2 Stalkers maybe. And that's only if you're going kind of crazy about it. And the Mothership is, when we get there. For the most part, I think a lot of the changes are more mid to late game. Like the Sensor Tower being cheaper, but also being able to be salvaged while having less radius. Stuff like that. The Immortal is 25 minerals cheaper, but has 10% less attack speed. So I would call that a nerf overall. Hallucinated Phoenix, just making sure to keep tabs. We got a whole new map pool as well. So much new stuff. And thankfully, these two have been relatively passive to start besides that first Reaper, because I've been able to describe most of it. But now, Widow Mines into the main. The sacrificial probes, but the amount of mining time lost. He's just sitting there. He recalls back the Stalkers, which is a bold move. The probes are like, take me! Take me! I will be the one. This is, the amount of time bought here. Quite extensive. And another Stalker comes up now. Not quite a sacrifice. Is he gonna get it in time? Oh, no. Well, okay. Ends up getting a Stalker anyways, after the hokey pokey action there. So, yep. Didn't really kill any probes, but pretty much stalled mining on that entire base for over 30 seconds. Does he get the medevac out of the way out? He knocks it into the sky. Yes, here we're on Amygdala, which making me feel things for sure, but a beautiful background, I'll say. I do love... Well, it's a bit cliche to have these ruined space stations as... or not even that ruined, in this case, as the background for StarCraft 2 maps. I think this does a particularly great job of really giving you that feeling of being in the literal stars. But now, the most dangerous part, and the biggest concern. Oh, I gotta mention, real quick, the Disruptor was nerfed. It has a lot less damage with a larger radius. No longer one-shots Marauders. Does 100 damage instead of 145. Which means it'll still one-shot Marines, still one-shot Ghosts, but still one-shot Widowmines. But Marauders, Siege Tank's gonna take less damage as well. Generally, it's going to be a lot more difficult to rely on a single Disruptor hit. But you're playing against Clem, so... even that one Disruptor hit was optimistic, let's be honest here. The Colossus also has 50 more HP, 50 less shield. So that gives it a bit more... well, armor applies more often, though unfortunately they still can't repair. So I'm not sure if I would consider that too much of a buff. For those wondering, the Liberator changes, where it had a liberation range, or radius, the size of the screen pretty much. That was removed. We still have... the Liberator remains unchanged if we get to that stage. And so far, they've still continued to be so passive, shocking around. Hallucinated probes sent out, which is actually a smart move, because when you hallucinate probes, you get 4 of them. So helps clear out those Widowmine fields. You don't even have to sacrifice real probes anymore. This map has so many rocks, though. You have to go all the way around, which kind of contributes to how passive, relatively, they've been. Clem looking for an opportunity. Gonna take out one of the cannons, or one of the pylons, rather. The Colossi standing tall, extended thermal lance is done, but the Bio Army. The Marauders out in front. A force field, optimistic, but the Nexus will finish. I believe you cannot energy recharge until the Nexus is done. Like, much like shield battery overcharge. But I'm not exactly sure where it'll draw the energy from, but all the Nexi are tied together in that. You only get one every minute. There's a Disruptor on the way, so interesting to see whether this is going to have any effect. 3 Ghosts in production, 3 supply apiece. So that the effective nerf is... you have 10 Ghosts in your main army. That's now 10. That's now an entire drop less of bio. That's another 3 Liberators you can't be building. Once again, not as much of an effect in Terran versus Protoss as it is against Zerg, when you usually have more like 20 Ghosts, but it's something. We'll have to see how much it actually does end up affecting it. Clem. I actually down 10 supply now. Both players a pretty decent count. The Warp Prism. Showtime doing a good job of keeping vision out on the map. Even if some of the observers are a little inefficient. He knows the map is dark and full of Terrans. That Colossus-based army. A few Disruptors being mixed in. Looks like Showtime going for a similar composition to what you'd see on the live server today. You have 3 or 4 Colossi, enough to force Vikings out. But at the same time... oh, well, that's unfortunate. Clem manually targets. Otherwise, it would have been one after the other. But he makes sure to lock on and knock down that prism with the Widowmines. So that angle of attack is shut down. That command center out in the midst of everything. Disruptor shot flung through. SCVs, what a save! With the command center of all things. And they saved the day for now. More force fields just to make it a little bit harder to chase down the army. 11 SCVs died in total. And that Zealot actually cleared out... the one Zealot that made it out of the prism cleared out the mines. Just too angry to die. Meanwhile, the EMPs blanket the army. Disruptor shot comes up empty. More charge lots trying to engage. Another Ruptor. Clem dodges back. Vikings still looking for more. Scan. That team-colored scan. Very nice one. More helpful in team games, but is something. Showtime finishing up +2 attack, +2 armor. He's going to have a window of about 10 seconds here with which to maybe use it. He can catch those ghosts with the Ruptor. Fires off a shot. And empty. Well, another one. That one, the Marauders tank it on the face, but a second one will follow it up, targets down the Ruptor, knocks down the Colossi. They're all hitting the deck now. Another Ruptor shot. And that one targeted down as well. The Vikings. Also, fun fact, Vikings no longer get one shot by disruptors. And the Terran army will continue to chase down. Though not a decisive victory for Clem. Still a costly exchange. Another fadeaway shot from the Ruptor. Oh, those units. A couple stims will bring the Marauders well within range. And Showtime is turning it around. The charge lots continue to warp in. I'm not sure what he's been using. Oh my god, Clem used the select all army hotkey. That Widow Might drop is finally dead. 10 minutes later. Nearly. Showtime doesn't want to get caught between a rock and a hard place. Observer still taking a look around. Clem adding on more orbital commands. Plus 3 infantry weapons now on the way, but Showtime has a pretty comfortable economy. He's sitting on 5-6 bases. An entire legion of charge lots is going north. He's got the double Ds of destruction, disruptors, and Dark Templar all together, making it an extra... Wow, that one Viking patrolling in the charge lots. Like, you know what? It's 25 charge lots. I think the vast majority, if not all of them, in position. The rocks are taken down. He spots it. Fires off a shot, though. How did he even... Oh, he saw the rocks go down, so that was the timing. He fired off the Ruptor. But Clem scans for an observer just in case. More Colossi coming in. The Viking count was knocked down to 3, so Colossi, again, going to be a pretty valuable addition to the composition. Force fields ward things away. Disruptors can technically go through them. Army getting chased. EMPs on the Zealots. But I think we're now seeing the effect somewhat of the Ghost Supply. Just a little bit less army to throw around is making it somewhat easier for Showtime to compete with the Terran army on the field. Still, though, a very dangerous amount of Terran out there. But there are currently 6 Ghosts. More on the way. That's almost another drop that Clem doesn't have out there. It's a little thing, but it definitely adds up. Just like these Stalkers getting chased down. A Colossus standing its ground, actually burning through, and the Dark Templar are able to clear out the base to the south, eviscerating the SCVs, 19 of them dead. The base lifted. The Dark Templar just running roughshod over absolutely everything. There's no real response. Finally, he walks into turret range, another Colossus knocked low. But Showtime, look at his money in the bank. Clem is dipping heavily in supplies, down to 140. Showtime is leveraging this position so well over the top of the Colossi, burning out 43 SCVs dead. He may never financially recover from this. And Clem, well, considering how much he's won, that's impressive. The Vikings hit the deck. The Marauder and Ghost pop out of the bunker. More reinforcements coming in, but Clem is on the back foot as the charge lot sprint forward. 5 SCVs at a time. And overall, Showtime has played an immaculate game. Pretty much no mistakes, never overcommitting. Knowing when he can take those fights, using the disruptors as the most dangerous force fields, Guardian Shield helping out with the Stalkers and Sentries. Charge lot's coming around the corner, curves a disruptor shot in, doesn't quite find the finishing blow. Showtime losing a lot of his gateway units here, but he can afford to replace them. Target firing down Ghost, gonna fall back, another Ruptor shot, clips the Ghost. Clem just tries to tank it with the Marauders, but a double shot confirms the kill. And Clem will survive for now, but he lost 52 SCVs. He lost so much army. He lost at least 1 base, and we have to ask ourselves the age-old caster question. Have you liked and subscribed? And at what cost? 3 Colossi at a time. The charge launch streaming forth. The DT's mixed in, and there's not that much left to scan. He's down to 4 orbital commands, but he needs the mules with how much economy he's lost. The medevacs are nearly out of energy. Disruptor shot around the corner. Wards away. And the third base will be pushed out. Another eruptor tries to connect. Not going to find it, but another orbital command, which makes the DTs more and more capable. Disruptor shot leans into it, but the medevacs are out of energy. Clem's out of money. He's out of supply. And I think Showtime has taken down the world champion with some of the most solid Protoss. Clem unable to find that early game damage. That really defines his playstyle. And I do think we saw the difference there with the Ghosts being a little bit more supply. I don't want to read too much into it. Single game, but a little bit more supply makes the difference when it comes to having enough charge slots to warp in, having enough stalkers to engage the army. It adds up. So, well, we will see. Clem, remarkably... Well, part of it is the energy recharge, allowing Hallucinated Phoenix to actually scout. Like, instead of the Shade Adept, like, trying to pull out a Terran card and figure out what the Terrans are doing in there. Instead, actually able to see whether it's going to be Widowmine, it's going to be Cyclone. The ambiguity of Terran openers has always been such a struggle for Protoss because it's almost impossible to cover all your bases when they could literally attack any part of them in multiple different ways. So I do think that's a change that may very well be targeted at higher level players more effectively, like we were attempting to do as, let's be honest here, my Middle League friends. Even shield battery overcharge is a bit of a struggle. But using that bit of extra energy. Taking some notes here on openers. Been playing, if you haven't checked out the second channel, I've been playing some games. I'm feeling a little better. Getting over being a bit under the weather. Just in time for Storm to be much more of a factor. Though not in any of these games so far. Well, one game so far. One games. Okay, that was pretty dumb. But I do wonder if we'll see it. The problem is Storm. Templar are very expensive. They take a lot of babysitting. EMP wipes them out. Medevacs exist. The robo units are more guaranteed damage. Maybe not disruptors, but making sure you have the Colossi and then mixing in disruptors in order to force Vikings and limit the micro potential of the bio. Like just enough Colossi to... so they can't thin out their units against the disruptors is the important point. That number seems to be 3 on a frequent occasion. So, energy recharge. You see the little animation there? I'm of the opinion it should be over a few seconds, which with a much more dramatic animation. Just for my sake to actually keep up with it. But we can tell the obvious effects. Hallucinated Phoenix will get in and right... oh, there we go. The new... old Cyclone. Hallucinated Phoenix is caught and killed, though. Clem adapted and intercepted that Phoenix. Another one is headed out. Energy recharge still. 30-second cooldown. But the Sentry gained enough energy. He's going to see this as the Cyclone. And I think it's more of a show, not tell situation. So you can all remember what we lost / gained. Has only 120 HP, which I believe is slightly less than its reactor recent version. But so much damage, and still has that mag field accelerator. Also, incredibly fast. Get out of the way! What? Nope. Guys, hello? Hello? Any? Well, it's fast. Definitely faster than Marines. We can say that with confidence. Blink is on the way. Shield battery. Shield batteries now have 50 more HP and shields. But without that overcharge ability, it's a little bit less relevant. As rarely are you targeting the shield battery first now. Just draining its energy is usually the objective. And is that another Cyclone? No, it's a siege tank, as he already, of course, had the tech lab. He's just going to go for it. Dodging shots, almost loses the medevac right off the bat. Really wants to at least get the energy out of it. Obviously, the micro potential is important. One of the gateways just going to go down. The choke point working against him. Gets on top, kills the medevac, eats a lot of hits. Works on the Cyclone. Guardian Shield just for 1 sentry. So, the Blink Stalkers will grind their way through. And overall, he only lost 4 Stalkers in a game. Actually, that went quite well for Showtime. That was about as good as it could get, considering the position. It looked a lot worse than it was. 4 Stalkers is more than a worthy trade in that sort of scenario. Meanwhile, just targeting. Staying slightly out of that siege tank range. Has to be very careful. Does not... If he eats another few Stalker losses, well, things like a... any harass at the back. He has to warp in some Stalkers on defense, and anchoring those Stalkers back will allow Clem to breathe a little bit easier by using the hallucinated Phoenix in order to get some high ground vision. Though a bit of a bold move, he scouts forward, he sees the siege tank, and realizes that jumping up there is probably not a great idea. Charge is on the way. Clem putting together a strong 2-base push. And he also has a 3rd command center. Showtime working on his 3rd nexus, almost completed. Researching charge for his zealots, as well as extended thermal lance for his currently building Colossi. So it will be that kind of brute force Colossus charge lock composition up against whatever Clem can bring to the table. Just targets the shield battery. But because... So, that is one thing the shield battery HP buff affects. Before, you could drop down 2 auto turrets, kill the shield battery, and then kill several probes. But now, you can now the shield battery can tank those 2 turrets for long enough to prevent any probes from being killed. It's a small thing, but it slightly reduces the wide array of vectors for Terran to get damage done to the economy early. But here comes Clem. The old hit him directly in the face strategy is also a classic tactic. And what does Showtime have to respond? Pretty bare bones looking army. He does have charge complete. Extended thermal lance is on the way. The 4th base is incredibly optimistic here. It's kind of a freebie. He's just going to jump in. I believe Showtime saw this, but the tanks will be sieged by the time the army gets in. Good force fields to start. Tries to dodge out the mine hits. Does a good job of it. The Stalkers come back around. Another set of more questionable force fields. But a 2nd Colossus on the way. Those siege tanks shelling the sentries. Very important. They have 1 HP each. Oh, and they're just dead. They just kind of evaporated. Well, Colossus tumble. And the gateway units are thinning out, but at the same time, there's only 2 Marauders left. He picks up, and Clem got greedy here. He didn't go for the 4th base. The 4th base is free. He could have canceled it outright. He tried to win the game. This is the 2nd time Showtime's had his observers. Just a buddy cop duo there. But, yeah, in trying to outright win the game, he may have put himself into an odd spot economically, because Showtime will have access to that 4th base. He can build more probes. He has that extra chrono, but at the same time, another drop is coming in. And that will leave the 4th base exposed. As look at the supply, 133 to 111. The army supply is most of the difference here. Hallucinated Phoenixes on the energy recharge sentries in order to tank the Widow Mine hits. And so far doing a pretty good job of it. Showtime finding pretty ingenious ways to use that ability. But at the same time, Marauders are incredibly tanky as well. Meanwhile, the drops load up and head towards the main. Clem, more base drops than a Skrillex album here, and the Marauders continue to kite back in a prison of his own design, those Zealots. The Stalkers working on the medevacs. The Marauders doing a lot of damage in the process. taking very good trades in the scheme of things, and Showtime still down 30 supply as reinforcements are mustered at the front. And Showtime looking to catch up here. Oh no, the Colossus straight a bit too far forward. The shield better not nearly enough to defend. And the bio, and that's it. He's just tearing him apart. 129 to 80 supply is how it finishes. And Clem, it wasn't the early game pressure, but Showtime just not able to get enough under him in order to hold his ground. So, Clem strikes back, ties things up 1-1. And I think that's the big weakness. Without overcharge, like energy recharge is nice early. Get that early scouting. But sometimes you scout and at the end of the day, you need something more on defense. And Showtime just didn't find it. And Clem really exploiting the main weakness of not having shield battery. It's before... Oh, energy on sentries only does so much for you. In order to defend, compared to having that extra shields. Especially against like early 2-base pushes. So, Clem hitting that major weak point of Protoss very effectively. We'll see if Showtime can find something to adapt. And while Showtime defended with the Blink Stalker as well, he didn't get any counter damage. He killed like 2 SCVs. And so that allowed Clem to maintain the momentum. A lot of the time we see players like Max Pex go with Blink Stalkers against Clem. They're killing a dozen SCVs and a tech lab researching stim and 2 siege techs or something like that. But that damage wasn't there. We're on Whispers of Gold. That last map was Ley Lines. I like this one. It has the little icons on each one. I think that's a Thor. There's a Wraith over there. I don't know, fuel tank. But where are you expanding? To the Wraith. They're the ones on the outside. A Goliath. This is obviously an old platform. Back in my day, we used to have Goliaths instead of redesigning the Cyclone 17 times to try to fill its role poorly. All right, Grandpa.
Who does that?
Well, Sentry on the way. Stalker first, then Sentry seems to be the order of the day. Clem has held off going Reaper at all. I wonder if that's because of those changes. Making sure he has the Marines early. Will we see a tech lab, or are we going to head towards a Widowmine drop again? And there's the gas. No? Not sure what he wants to build. Widowmines it is. Hallucinated Phoenix will spot it. He's going to see the double gas. Once again, Showtime's going to have that information. Now, what does he do with it?
I'm here in the shadows.
Hallucinate Phoenix sticks around. He's going to spot the tech lab start. Is he faking that? No. He wants siege tanks behind it anyways. So, as Blink is still the choice. I'd like to see some real Phoenixes using that early energy charge. There's Nade Phoenix. Well, that's definitely a Widowmine. I like the reflex to try to turn it around when you see the Widowmine, but it's already too late. Just tries to get a little bit extra info. But here comes Clem. Warp gates are just now opening up. As the medevac darts towards the main. I don't know if he caught a glimpse of it. The Spylons will see it here. Blink's still quite far off. He's just gonna fight. And why not? The Marines are more than enough. There's just not enough units here. Force field is certainly an optimistic choice. That Widowmine kind of stalling out any attempts to maybe bring the probes or something like that. Oh no, the mine. He has to stay right on the edge of its range. He's gonna sacrifice and take me. The badly bruised Stalker throws itself on the grenade in order to cut this off as quickly as possible. Now a Liberator is sent out by Clem. Third base going to be attempted. Showtime so far, mostly deflecting the early aggression, but Clem is not going to hesitate to move out yet again. 2 tanks on the way. He doesn't want to let... He spots the Liberator. He does not want to let the Blink Stalkers get to the other side of the map. He doesn't want to let Showtime sit back and build up. We saw how that went in the one game where Showtime was able to get a third base comfortably. I don't think Clem is, well, fool me once, and I won't be fooled again. Templar Archives. A rush to storm. Or so it seems. He's just faking out. He's just faking them out. With the siege tanks here. Just 4 Stalkers. Enough to one-shot Marines, but he does lose a Stalker. There's really not that many units for Showtime right now to defend. The tank's still trundling across the map. And again, it's going to be that sharp timing. There's 8 Stalkers, 7 Stalkers in a sentry. That is, he just gives up the third. Doesn't even bother trying to finish it. Needs more gateways now. Immortals on the way. I think that's the first one we're seeing. Clem moving up. The tanks continuing forward. He's got a third command center on the way, so that puts him ahead economically. Especially considering Showtime now supply. Look at the supply. Like, I don't know where Showtime went wrong. This is, Clem certainly hitting the important timings here. Showtime, unable to really... He's just way behind. He's got Storm on the way. He's going to rely on that in order to try to drag himself back into it. But Storm doesn't kill units usually on its own. At least not against Clem. I'm not talking about Diamond Terrans on the ladder. I'm sure he's going to energy charge. You can see that 1 Templar got special treatment. Comes out with 2 Storms, which is quite helpful. Starts at 50, drop 100 more, bam, 2 Storms. Mathematician. Here comes the army for Clem. And the Observer spots it. You need those Storms the moment those tanks are sieging up, or ideally before. Here comes the very obvious, very conspicuous Prism. First Storm clips some Marines. Combat Shield is not done, so just a couple seconds in the Storms and they'll evaporate. But the army supply is still very dicey. It's not going to get much easier for Showtime. Ideally, he goes as soon as possible. He's dropping out some of the Templar so he can juggle the Immortal in. Loses 2 Templar with some Storms and a potential Archon merge. Still fighting. But Clem just darting back. Energy recharge used on another Templar. Or was it on the sentry there? I didn't catch it. Unclear. He just wants to go, but Combat Shield is now done. Widow Mines will soften up some of the Zealots. Trying to chase forward. Immortal coming down the ramp. Picks up the Marines. And Showtime will defend for now, but the attack is moved into the main. As Clem, the Zealot's not going to be enough. He scans. Sees he's safe to continue moving forward. And Showtime is down 30 supply yet again. He's not even bothering to come back to his main base. Oh no, he's going into a base trade of sorts. But is it really a base trade when you've already lost your base and you're just started killing theirs? Good force field catches some of the SCVs. I think there's 1 Templar in the Prism, but it needs an apocalyptic storm in order to deal with this. Just that 1 Templar. Meanwhile, the main base starting to falter. Energy charge is up. He's running out of real estate. The Templar goes down. He's focused on the other side. The Prism. It all falls apart. Clem powers through and heads to match point. Again, slamming that timing. And Showtime unable to answer. He's worked it out. I think the game on Amygdala, well, partially it's a map that's very hard to actually maneuver around because of those rocks, like, almost literally everywhere. But also, Clem now very much focused on hitting that, like, early 2.5 base timing before Showtime can build up. And that, I think, was the common concern for most people, including myself, for Protoss. And I don't think the patch really does anything to solve that. Like, we're seeing occasionally the new Cyclone, the new old Cyclone. But it's really... Protoss is a little stronger if they can survive for long enough to get to 3 base. But so far, when Clem's put his mind to it, and his minds to it, Showtime has been unable to establish a 3rd safely. And that has been the tipping point for these games. Well, we're on Snowpiercer. And Showtime's got one more shot, one opportunity. Will he capture it? Oh, he slip on the ice. Interested to see if Showtime mixes up the opener at all. Just being able to see what your opponent is doing doesn't necessarily give you the information to stop it. Interesting, it's an Adept first. Does that mean we're going to get a Stargate build for maybe the first time? He didn't get a second gas very early, though, so... It is a Reaper, though. I think he actually noticed that as well. Interesting. No warp gate yet. It's quite a tell. Reaper comes in the employee entrance. Stargate is the choice. So going to mix it up a bit. I think it's time to do so. It feels like the last 2 games felt pretty decisive. Like, Showtime didn't make mistakes with the Blinkstalkers. It's just, it was already tough to defend against a concerted 2 base timing from Terran without shield battery overcharge. It didn't get any easier. You simply can't get Storm early enough. And if you try it, you've just spent 100 gas on the Twilight, 200 on the Templar, so 150. Either way. 200 more per... It's like 450 gas before you get your first Templar. Now, the Adepts being somewhat annoying. Don't know where the Reaper went. To the units lost tab while I was pontificating. Oh, he retargets... Widow Mine on the herd Adepts. But, delayed the command center a bit, and now Phoenix is on the way. Energy charge? Does he have... Oh, he doesn't have the energy on any of his next eye, unfortunately. Drink a Red Bull. I think he's waiting it out. I think Phoenixes with 3 lifts. Much more useful. Well, 1, Oracles die in 1 hit to Widowmont, which is always going to make them a bit dicey. Does he use it on the second one, maybe? Let's see it. Do the thing. So easy to miss. Maybe he's debating it. Oh, he's at Chrono Boost. Okay. Well, here comes the medevac drop. We'll see if the Phoenixes, on paper, should be better suited to deal with exactly this. But, of course, we don't play on tabletop. Or the YouTube comments. Either way. Oh, he picks it up. And the Phoenixes should be able to... No, don't attack your own Nexus! The Adepts were a bit distracted there. May lose 1 Phoenix. And that pylon is actually body blocking his Adepts. Oh, it's a rough position. He could drop some energy on the Phoenixes, maybe? Killing the Hellion would be incredibly helpful. Targeting some more probes. Bit of a slow-moving situation. But overall, Showtime with a good defense. It was a bit dicey there for a moment, but Clem loses everything. There is a Banshee on the way, and there are observers in production, but the casual cloaked Banshee, which should be hard countered by observers and by Phoenixes, is still going to get some damage done. I think he's going to spot it now. He comes back. The Banshee Unfortunately, the cloak is already completed. He has to recall probably an observer. No, he recalls the phoenixes, but he has an observer on hand. 4 kills so far. It could have been worse. The tools are there. Again, Mech Protoss. Working out well. Showtime able to survive. And this time around, Clem is at his weakest, besides game 1, he's at his weakest position to pressure Showtime on that 2-3 base timing. The Phoenixes have dealt with this early pressure. Still sitting back and ready to defend. The Banshees are a big investment, especially with Cloak. And 5 probes. He's keeping the Phoenixes at home, but that's... yeah, I don't think it paid off. Clem still just on 2 orbital commands. Showtime. He's only on 2 gateways. He's really focused on Phoenixes, as well as, what's the other thing? Colossi. Yes. Hard to miss, but surprise. Managed to do so. As an immortal out there as well. But it seems Clem is quite intent on building up this army. It is concerning the lack of additional gateways from Showtime, but he's relying heavily on these Phoenixes to get the damage done. The triple threat is closing in. Stim Combat Shield +1. Double Medevac here. Does he pull the boys? No. Just gonna try to pressure forward. But no massive supply gap like we saw in the previous game. Showtime much better equipped to defend here. He should have 1 Colossus out. He does. An Immortal hanging out underneath as well. Looking kind of awkward and making everyone uncomfortable. But it's kind of what it does. Stim is done, though. Could be an opportunity to just move in this moment. Goes straight for the Robo and guts it. He just kills it right off the bat. There goes a Phoenix. There goes 2. And without the robotics facility, he's delayed any additional Colossi. So Clem just gonna run right on through the base. Take out. Oh, doesn't quite finish off that pilot. A bit sloppy there. But there's nothing to stop him from continuing this revolving door strategy. He's sending out another wave. 2 more medevacs headed towards the 3rd. And Clem is landing his 3rd at the same time. Widow Mines, Marines, Marauders, the M&M strategy comes up again. And Clem again has that 30 supply lead. Showtime tried to shore things up. He's got 2 robos on the way, but they have yet to be delivered. The Widow Mines will burrow and re-burrow, just trying to distract things, making sure they don't get wasted. And at the natural, couple Stalkers, not nearly enough. Few Phoenixes, not even close. He lifts him up, but Clem knocks him down with 3 solid early mid-game timings. And Showtime showing that given enough time, he can take Clem on. But Clem, those timing attacks, more than enough to break through. I don't know how many conclusions we can draw here, but my prediction for the balance patch was that it would make the strongest points of each race stronger. Which is not necessarily what we're going for. What I mean by that is Protoss would get stronger once they have all their tools together, because energy recharge allows you to supplement your army a lot easier. And less ghosts means less Terran to deal with it. Whereas no shield battery overcharge, the old Cyclone allows Terran to hit those early game timings more strongly. And so far, I think a pretty decisive representation of that. I think the Phoenixes had more potential. It's just Clem caught him off guard with those Banshees. He kind of stopped sending out the hallucinated Phoenixes once he had real ones, somewhat ironically. And Clem was able to sneak the Banshees in. And even though they didn't do a lot of damage, they ended up really kind of turning the pace of the game and giving Clem the initiative again. And once he gets an advantage, it's really hard to turn that around. So, obviously Clem, the favorite in every matchup. He is the world champion. Showtime showing his strengths as well, but we'll see. I think now I'm actually going to add a little more opinion at the end, which is keep shield battery overcharge and energy overcharge, and make them share a cooldown. So that way Protoss doesn't necessarily have to die. Maybe nerf shield battery overcharge a bit. Again. And technically energy overcharge can be used on batteries, but it's way, way worse. So, but I'm hard-pressed to see what Showtime could have done much better. Obviously, Clem's going to take tiny advantages and turn them into huge ones, but still feels very brittle at that stage of the game. But congratulations to Clem on yet another tournament win. Pretty big one as well. I believe $1,000 prize pool or so on this. Thank you to Wardy for putting it on. As always, we're going to have more games. Let me know in the comment. You made it this far. Like and subscribe. Let me know what matchup you want to see next. I think we had some pretty great games. Showtime played against Zerg as well. I was thinking about those next, but I'll take some suggestions. Otherwise, if you got Patreon, the means of motivation, that'd be awesome. Either way, liking and subscribing is still free for now. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. I hope I made your day a little bit better. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.